What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So the saga continues. What we know moving forward is that there's a lot of disagreements amongst workers and amongst the unions. Well, on Saturday, November 5th, that was just yesterday, the International Association of Machinists voted yes to accepting the tentative agreement between the unions and the railroads. This is big, and I want to explain why. Because this puts unions one step closer to reaching a full agreement. Now, just so you know, this would be a complete disaster if we see the unions go on strike, or even get close to a strike, which a strike could potentially come on November 19th. That is in just 13 days, less than 2 weeks. Now, why is that so important? Well, it's so important because this is putting a lot of pressure on the U.S. economy. And I say this because there is a lot of rail yards that have already looked to find ways to transport their goods. And the main way they're going to transport goods is by truck. That will be a disaster. But that is not the only disaster. Here's what we know. The union said just the other day that they feel confident that this is the best deal for their members. And that union says, we recognize that the agreement wasn't accepted overwhelmingly, so our team will continue conversing with our members at our rail yards across the nation. This agreement is the first step in addressing some of the issues in our industry. That is a key statement. This agreement is the first step. Now, here's what you need to know. What the union is trying to do is trying to open up the negotiation table, which is kind of what they did, right? That's why they're negotiating this labor agreement. But this is, again, they say we can't go from step 1 to step 15. We have to take incremental steps. And that's what they're trying to do. The only issue is they've been at this for about 2 years, which is already putting them behind the curve. So that's what many workers are saying. That's the reason why they're so upset, is because if this agreement was on the table 2 years ago, then yes, they probably would have accepted it. But now, they do not want to accept this. Now, here's one thing I can tell you. Another union accepting this tentative agreement is a positive sign for our economy, because the last thing that we want to see right now is a rail strike. Not only would this cause shipments to be delayed, in some cases it would be completely stopped. We'd see things like grain, corn, airline parts, cars, right, coal. We'd see all these things just stop. They wouldn't move. So this is going to put more upward pressure on the trucking industry and on diesel supply and prices. Again, we are at record lows for diesel supply, which means any more demand for diesel is going to push prices even higher. That's not what we need. Now, the fact that another union has accepted this tentative agreement means that it could put more pressure on the other unions that have already declined. The two biggest holdouts, right? We could get those to accept the deal that is on the table. We also know that if a deal doesn't get accepted by the unions very soon, according to the Labor Secretary Marty Walsh, he says, and I quote, if for some reason one of the unions doesn't get to an agreement with the companies, then Congress will have to take action to avert a strike in our country. Yeah, Congress is going to have to take action. Do you know what Congress does not want to do? They do not want to take action on a railroad strike dispute. They do not want to deal with that. That should not be Congress's job. However, this is going to put Congress at the forefront of this right after the election. And you know what Congress is needing to do after the election? They need to do a government funding bill, because right now we're still operating on a continuing resolution, and they have to worry about the deficit. Again, major issues. Now, I've been getting a bunch of questions lately as to whether or not all the unions will go on strike at the same time, or will it just be the ones that don't accept a deal? Well, here's what we know. The truth is that all the unions wouldn't go on strike at the same time. For example, the Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way Employees Division, they could go on strike as soon as November 19th. They are the first ones. But then we got the Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen. They could go on strike as soon as December 4th. But according to all unions, and here's the key, if any rail union were to go on strike, all the rail unions, which together they represent over 110,000 members, they would all honor the picket lines and refuse to work. They would not work. But they can't just all go on strike at the exact same day. And again, that's what makes this so difficult, is it would slowly get worse. So it's not on day one we see a $2 billion loss, but if 110 members decide to go on strike, it would get incrementally worse as more unions decide to go on strike as well. So that is the big issue. This is why this is going to be a disaster for Congress, because according to multiple officials, Congress will step in. And according to multiple lawmakers, lawmakers will step in and they will avert a strike of some sort. Now, what does this mean for you and I? Well, this means that we need to be prepared. However we prepare. If this means we go and buy some extra toilet paper, go and stock up on flour and sugar and salt, and make sure we have gasoline in our cars. We need to do that. We need to make sure whatever we can buy ahead of time is something that we are buying now. Don't wait for the last minute. Don't wait until you see all over the news that there's a shortage. Don't do that, because prices always go up. Never wait. Now, one thing I can tell you though, Congress does not want to have to come in and cause these unions to accept a deal. That's not what they want. But they will do that. If they do it, according to multiple officials, it will likely take a few days. Now, if we see that the first union is going to go on strike on November 19th, then expect we could see a few days later that's when Congress comes in and says, you know what? Nope, no strike. We have to pass this. We have to pass it now. Because again, there has to be a deal. We have to get a deal done. We cannot just keep kicking the can down the road, because by kicking the can down the road, all that does is makes the members, according to many people I've talked to, it's just making the members upset. They do not want to work. They're excited to go on strike because things have to change. Well, that's at least what we know at this time. So, as always, as I know more, I promise I'll come back on and share all latest news and updates. Again, just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.